So to run a Docker container, we can use command docker, okay, run, name of the container, okay, and the image name, okay, whatever it may be, nginx, httpd, mysql. This is one of the way to create a container. If you want one more container, we keep on changing the container name and the images, okay. This is how we create the containers using docker run command. Just now we saw if we want to create multiple containers, we do what we do is docker compose. Using docker-compose.yml, we create a docker compose file, and using docker compose up, docker compose up, we just start the containers, that is multiple containers. Now if we want to create our custom image, what we used to do, we created a docker file, and using docker build command with some options like -t and all, we used to create a custom docker image, okay. Similarly, that is possible using docker file and compose, docker compose.yml, okay. So even with the docker compose.yml, we can create a custom image. So scenario would be, what we will do is will as always we will create a index.html file, okay. Simple HTML application will create a docker file in that particular directory, and in docker compose a very simple 3 lines we are adding here, okay. That build, we are giving a service name as a build, web, and we are saying build dot, okay. Build dot means search for a docker file in a current directory and create the custom image, okay. Rather than giving it the image name, we are asking it to create that image using docker compose, which is present in a current directory, and then we are mapping port 8080 to port 80 inside the container. So this is also very simple exercise, but while doing docker compose app, we are saying it to build the image and then run it. So hyphen build option we are giving. So what we'll do is we'll just quickly create the directory structure. So in this case, we are creating my HTML app directory, and inside my HTML directory, we'll create a index.html file cat. So let's do cd my HTML app cat index.html. So in this case, we are not creating a HTML app directory, but till now what we used to do was we used to create an app directory, and inside that we used to create index.html. Here we are creating docker file and index.html, both in the same directory. Cat docker file. Okay. So what we are doing is we created a simple HTML index.html file. Now we created a docker file. What it will do is, so docker file, we can have many minimal options as well. So in this case, we have a very small or a short docker file. What it does is it will download the nginx alpine image and copy our index.html which we created inside usr share nginx html, and whatever we keep inside in usr share nginx html will get displayed on the screen. So before running docker compose app, up hyphen build, I'll just stop the containers which we created earlier. So docker compose down. We are not in the directory where docker compose is. So docker compose, it will see the docker compose.yml file and stop the containers. Okay, it stopped and removed. So if you do sudo docker ps and ps-a, it has removed the containers as well. Now let's go back to the app directory, my html app, okay, and just run the command sudo docker compose -build -d, run in a detached mode and do up. So syntax issue, I'll just copy it. D should be at the end. So what we are doing, Docker compose up -build. Why we are giving build? So that it builds the custom image and then runs it. Okay, I haven't created docker compose.yml. So it just saw that it has to create a web container. So and we are saying to build the image from a Docker file. In Docker file, the first line is nginx alpine, download base image nginx alpine, and copy our index.html inside usr share nginx html. Okay, so our container is created. This one is successfully created, and it is created from this Docker file custom container, which copies the index our custom index.html file. And if we do now curl, so let's first check sudo docker compose ps. So we can see the container is running on port 8080. Now if we do curl localhost 8080, we can see our custom HTML page. It will also show in sudo docker ps. So this is how we created a custom image and we are running it using Docker Compose.